Hi, Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Wednesday, October the 11th, which happens to be National Coming Out Day. Coming out's a decision everybody has to make for themselves and make it carefully, but I will say and add my own 2 cents that even though political times are not the best, it does get better. On with the news. Slave labor. A lawsuit was filed in Oklahoma yesterday by 3 people who'd been sentenced to rehabilitation because of drug offenses. They were assigned to work for an Arkansas poultry company. It was essentially slave labor. They got no money for their toil. Sometimes they suffered injuries. A rehabilitation outfit, a so-called Christian outfit, got their money. They think this is a violation of all sorts of laws. They also say when workers' compensation benefits were paid, they were paid to the Christian rehabilitation agent, not to the injured workers. Arkansas says that now will investigate this. It'll be interesting to see how seriously Arkansas takes some of these allegations, because 3 major poultry companies in Arkansas, Simmons, Tyson, and George's, all use these type of workers with varying types of arrangements and supposed rehabilitation programs. The Center for Investigative Reporting has done a magnificent job on reporting this situation, and now it's in the federal courts, and investigations are underway in 2 states. Well, the football game goes on. Did the NFL say that they were going to make players stand up for the national anthem yesterday? Well, not quite, Roger Goodell, the commissioner, says, although he certainly supports that, but they're not making a rule yet. They're going to have further discussions. Donald Trump's already claimed victory over these recalcitrant football players. He's going to bring them to heel in authoritarian style. Well, speaking of Donald Trump, a little news on that front today. You know, he's rolled back the mandate for birth control coverage by insurance companies under the Affordable Care Act. This is bad news for hundreds of thousands of women who've had their birth control paid for. And by the way, birth control pills are used for a variety of medical reasons, not simply birth control. But the bad news is that people have been investigating, and doctors and scientists say that there's a lot of bad science being put out by the Trump administration, along with its mandate to no longer cover birth control by companies that don't want to do so for religious or moral reasons. They say that some types of birth control pills are abortion, actually, when they're not. The morning after pill is not an abortifacient. They say that birth control hasn't contributed to the decline in unwanted pregnancies. Nobody believes that's true. They also say birth control leads to promiscuity, another poorly supported idea from the Trump administration. This is all about creating an argument for personhood. Trump is catering to the religious right of his base. He's not catering to women or science. Well, also today, the new U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Arkansas, Cody Highland, took office yesterday, and he's going to capitalize on his new job at his first full day at work by presiding over a news conference at Russellville this afternoon. Don't have all the details yet, but it's a sweeping indictment over methamphetamine dealing, gun charges, and also by people involved in white supremacy activities. So watch for that later on today. Here's some good news. Ted Thomas is the chairman of the Arkansas Public Service Commission. He's a former Republican legislator, appointee of Republican governors, but he said quite clearly at an energy meeting this week that he disagrees with Energy Secretary Rick Perry's idea of providing some subsidies to the coal industry because they're having a hard time competing against cheaper natural gas. That's the market at work, said Ted Thomas, and that's how it's supposed to work. Good to see a Republican from a deep red state taking exception to some pretty bad governance by the Trump administration, which is nothing but political catering, of course, to the coal industry, which was very good to Donald Trump. I learned today that the city of Little Rock is getting into the tornado safe room business. It's applied for some federal money, gotten a little bit. It's going to build safe rooms to protect people from tornadoes at 2 locations, the Dunbar Community Center and the Ottenheimer Community Center. That's just 2. That'll cover about 150 people. That leaves a couple of 100,000 of us perhaps without these modular safe rooms that are going to be built to those community centers. The city said it's going to build more of them as it's able, needs to protect people in these places. Said that those places were identified as people at risk and youth that could use protection in the event of bad weather. And finally, this, I guess, the Boy Scouts announced today that they're going to admit girls to the Boy Scouts. They're going to start with Cub Scouts, and they're going to create a program where girls can become Eagle Scouts. These are going to be somewhat separate units. The Girl Scouts of America aren't too happy. They say this is just because the Boy Scouts are in trouble, declining enrollment, and they're looking to poach some girls from them. They say they ought to stick to boys. Well, in any event, scouting continues. I'm Max Brantley. I'm going to resist. I hope you do too. I'll be back tomorrow.